I was just wondering, like, what was Ewan McGregor's first full frontal movie, you know? Was it this?
Phantom Menace. It's like, George, I don't need a lightsaber. I've got one right here. And he's like, put it away.
He's like, just stop. We
stop
understand.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to keep doing this.
Quit it. Quit it, quit it, quit it.
Well, hello there, Ryan.
Usually,
I know I'm forgetting what I said.
usually I don't say anything until it's like I'm my co-host, Ryan. And I'm like, hello.
I'm genuinely forgetting, like, even what I say.
Right? Well,
I remember now.
Right.
We've only done this like 8 times.
Oh my god. Sort it out, hen.
Okay.
You did. Come on.
Oh, hello there. Welcome to On the Beat, the podcast that uncovers full frontal male nudity in cinema. I am Laura, and I am joined by my co-host, Ryan.
Hi.
Hey!
Hello.
Welcome to our talk today about the 1996 comedy drama.
Yes.
Trainspotting.
Yeah, I would say it was a comedy drama.
Dark comedy.
Yeah, I guess we'll get more into the comedy and stuff like that, but it feels to me quintessentially of a Scottish attitude, so I don't have too many qualms with people calling it a comedy because there are certain aspects of it that are funny.
Oh, it's very funny.
Yes, there are certain aspects of it that you should not be laughing at, and I will have a slightly slanted eye at you if you are laughing at those particular parts. But
fair enough.
For the most part, yes, you are dealing with some quite unique characters here, so you will crack a smile at some point.
Yeah, this is directed by Danny Boyle.
Yes.
And this is kind of early days Danny Boyle, but I know you will tell me a little bit more about that.
Danny Boyle, we know him best as the British film director. He's worked in TV. He's also worked on the stage. Predominantly, he got his start on the stage, and he directed theatre all the way through the 1980s. And then eventually moved into working in TV, one of which is his most notable, and I'm only kind of bringing it up because it's something that I actually quite like. But in 1987, he produced the TV film Elephant for Alan Clark. Yeah, and you know how much I like Alan Clark.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's got some very, very interesting cinematography in it, but it's based on the Troubles, and it was a short film for BBC Northern Ireland. So yeah, very, very kind of topical piece. I say to anybody who's never seen any of Alan Clark's stuff, I say check it out.
Right.
He is also the director of Made in Britain, that Tim Roth movie.
Certainly.
Yes, and also probably best well known for that movie called Scum, with Ray Winston, based in the Boys Borstal. So a little bit more about Danny Boyle. Let's say later on we kind of know more about Danny Boyle. He directed the London 2012 Olympics opening ceremony.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Well, he's a man of theatre, and he still does theatre to this day.
True.
He's very much a Sam Mendes in that respect. But it was called The Isle of Wonder.
Aw.
Yeah. I remember it being very interesting. It was one of the few things I remember from that time where I was like, I'm going to sit and watch this. Yeah. And it was certainly during a time where, we had a fairly villainous Tory government in power at the time, and there was certain word going around that they were going to dismantle the NHS and all this other horrible shit. Yeah. And I quite liked what he did with that, as it was just seemingly like a massive middle finger to the establishment, and I was just like, yeah. I was like, good on you. He was also, this is another reason why I quite like him as well, he was offered a knighthood, but he declined it. So
oh shit. Into
his film career, and we won't have too much to say because this Trainspotting is his second film.
Yep.
So he broke out with Shallow Grave in 95, which is phenomenal. Love that movie. And then Trainspotting comes in 96. And I only mention this because it's his last film of the 90s, technically, and it's Life Less Ordinary in 97. I think the only other thing to kind of note during this time is that he turned down making Alien 4.
Right.
Now, obviously, the story behind Alien 4 is there's tons of people involved in the making of that movie. And the movie eventually goes to Jean-Pierre Jeunet of Amélie and City of Lost Children fame, the French director.
I feel like after Aliens, that whole franchise gets... Well, not the whole franchise, but, you know, certainly feel like...
the whole franchise, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
like Alien 3 and 4 have...
There's only, technically,
stories.
There's only 2 films in the Alien franchise, as far as I'm concerned.
I liked the Fassbender ones. He kisses himself.
Whatever. So, let's get on to Trainspotting, because that's what we are here for. So, basically, the same team that worked on Shallow Grave is behind Trainspotting. So, it's writer John Hodge, it's producer Andrew McDonald, and Danny Boyle's also bringing in, I don't know if it's the same cinematographer, but it's definitely the same editor.
Okay.
So basically there's a familiarity to the crew side of things.
Best friends.
Basically. And certainly the dropping of Irvin Welsh's book on the lap of these guys seemed very serendipitous.
Yeah.
So as much as we kind of know about Trainspotting, the book at this time, because I think about the time they got a hold of Trainspotting, they were doing press for Shallow Grave. I think that's why it's so quickly picked up and it's so quickly turned around.
Yeah, because his book was only published in 93.
Yes, and it's Irvin Welsh's first ever book.
Definitely.
So all that we'll kind of say about this is that the book is very different from what the film ends up becoming, but the film stands on its own.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, and I think even the makers of Trainspotting fully recognize as well, is that this is very much an Irvin Welsh creation. And I say any of his film adaptions are Irvin Welsh creations. So certainly there's no sense of like there is one man behind the driving force behind this film in particular. I feel like this project kind of lives and breathes basically on the word of Irvin Welsh.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to date, it's still the best film adaptation of any of his work that's ever been made, I feel like, personally.
Struggling to think of any others other than Filth.
Yeah.
And obviously T2, not so much.
No, well, T2 is a bit of a mess as far as I'm concerned. But I
mean, Filth is good. Other adaptations.
Yeah, I mean, I generally enjoyed Filth when I first saw it. But I think if we're talking about like, I wouldn't say true adaptions, but I would definitely say like, capturing a kind of heart and soul of his work. And I kind of feel like it's his first novel, and then obviously this is the first film adaptation. I think it sets its own benchmark.
Yeah.
And certainly the tone of what's to follow with the film adaptions as well.
Right.
Because this definitely skirts a very fine line between entertainment and offense, basically. And it certainly skirts a very fine line culturally. For certainly what they're trying to go for here is something that has a relatively mainstream appeal. The problem is the appeal has to come from following a group of individuals who are, for better or worse, drug addicts.
Yeah.
And certainly, this is a film I studied when I was in school. So this was I was 15 years old when I studied this film in high school.
Oh boy.
And we did it alongside Braveheart. And it was about Scottish representation in cinema. I went into it so hard that I couldn't watch Trainspotting for at least 8 years.
Oh my goodness.
There's no way. It's like you spent that entire time like prepping and reading and watching a film over and over again. And certainly this is not a film that's probably suitable for a 15 or 14-year-old.
Potentially.
Yeah, but certainly like growing up in Scotland myself, there's a weird nostalgia factor to this film.
Yeah.
But there's also kind of like there's a kindred like relationship I have to it.
Yeah.
As much as like I don't agree with any of it, there are horribly parts of the film and certainly the people they meet and the people they talk to and the characters and stuff like that I find somewhat relatable. And I can definitely find myself getting lost a bit in the cultural aspects that this film effectively nails head on, you know?
Well, I think you can thank everyone that picked up this film to make it for that, you know what I mean? Because it brings so much heart and so much relatability.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it helps make it so widely appreciated, because even though it is quite a niche culture, in a way, it's somehow relatable across the world.
Yeah, and I guess, like, I think this is maybe the main thing I have against it, is that it's sad that I can sit here and be like, well, the lives of drug addicts and heroin and stuff like that feels quintessentially part of culture.
Yeah.
And that's the saddest thing I find about it. But I feel like I think that's more an issue with like Western capitalist society, not just Scotland, just on its own. Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel like that's kind of where it is. And that is effectively, as you look at it, as you examine it, and as you kind of see all these characters, some that kind of contradict themselves against others, into that, like, well, it's like, well, I wouldn't inject heroin into my body, but I'll quite happily drink and I'll quite happily smoke.
Yes.
So there are people who contradict themselves by using more socially accepted forms of addiction.
Absolutely. So this movie stars Ewan McGregor, and I only kind of put him at the top, and I feel like everyone else is kind of like an assembly in a way. I don't know if you agree with me.
Well, he's like the main character, and
he's the face, the voice.
He's the face and the voice that we follow through the story, even though that's not the case in the book.
Yes, because the book is a compilation of stories,
It's
right?
episodic,
and so you kind of follow the different characters through the book.
You follow each of them, basically.
And so the makers of the film thought that Renton, Ewan McGregor, kind of had the voice that they wanted to follow through the tale.
Because put it this way, it's like a 400-page book. And they've crammed a story into 90 minutes. Yeah. And there is not a wasted second.
No.
At all. And it is...
No, certainly not.
It's like, it's banging from start to finish.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also starring Ewan Bremner as Spud, Johnny Lee Miller as Sick Boy, Robert Carlyle is Begbie.
Yes.
Kevin McKidd is Tommy. And we've got Kelly MacDonald, who plays Diane.
Yes.
Sweet Diane.
So pretty much, like, everyone in this cast list, I mean, there's a ton. Like, James Cosmo's in this movie. I mean, Dale Winton makes a small appearance. Irvin Welsh also makes an appearance.
He does.
Peter Mullen's also in this movie. Shirley Henderson's also in this movie.
Is. A huge cast list.
Yeah. They're all kind of very much like staples of Scott's films. I guess like if we were to kind of think about what this film represents, is Shallow Grave and Trainspotting are kind of seen at the time of the 90s to revitalise the British cinema, basically.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, pardon the pun, but it's the injection of creativity that these films kind of bring in to the fore. You know, I don't fully agree with that, but I can see why. You know, it's one of the greatest British films ever made.
And I feel like at the time there was either what we have going on here.
Yeah.
Or we have this kind of historical, fictional dramas that were happening at the time.
Yeah.
You know, like you've got, I mean, I was going to say Emma, but that's obviously later, but like your Jane Austen type films that are going on that are just these like romanticized English countryside and things like this. And then you have these type of movies like, you know, Trainspotting that are coming out a little bit later. That's just kind of changing the landscape of how you kind of see these.
I would say like in terms of British cinema, it comes in ebbs and flows. We've already got our Mike Leigh, we've already got our Stephen Frears and stuff like that. We've already had our Saturday night, Sunday morning, like a Richard Burton sort of stuff back in the 60s. So like we have had British cinema itself has had its plenty to draw upon.
Did you know that Ewan McGregor dropped like 2 stone? He dropped like, what was it? How much is a stone? 11 pounds?
He
dropped
12, like 12 pounds.
Really?
Or 13, I think, maybe.
Well, he dropped like almost 20 pounds for this role.
Well, I think basically he read the script and I don't think, like, they let him read it, basically, because they were all quite close after Shallow Grave. They let him read it and basically stated, this is not an offer, by the way. But
even though they knew they definitely wanted him.
They were his number one choice, but they couldn't see him doing it. He had, like, the longer hair, and he obviously had a bit more weight on him and stuff like that. So by the time you see him as Renton, he's, like, stick thin, and he's shaved his head.
Yes. And I think he did that just to show them, like, I can do this. Let me do this. I want this. He's like, this is one of the few times in my life where I read a script and I'm like, this is it.
End of the day, this is his quintessential role. Other than, say, like Obi-Wan Kenobi that comes later. Yeah. This is his quintessential role. Like, this is the thing that'll propel him.
Absolutely.
Rockets him out of there. Out of obscurity.
This was his first full frontal. Well, let me read you the letterboxed synopsis of
let's get right
film.
Into this.
One sentence.
Okay. Oh, jeez.
Mark Renton, deeply immersed in the Edinburgh drug scene, tries to clean up and get out, despite the allure of the drugs and influence of friends.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Tagline? Can you guess it?
It's not like Choose Life or something.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Choose life.
Yeah, so, okay. Let's...
I want you to sum it up for me, because you have a relationship with this film. I've seen this movie a few times.
Oh, I've seen it at least
I'm obviously...
50, 60 times.
I'm probably not as familiar.
Yeah. I hate to say it's an easy watch, but I find some level of comfort watching it. Yeah. And I love like this dark humor, but it's something that I've always kind of related to, was that certainly I don't know, as a Scotsman or a Scots person, when shit gets real, when shite's like really fucking crap, you tend to just combat it with humor for the most part. I don't know what it is with me and why I've always really liked dark humor, or like British humor, Scots humor, or like you know, Australian or whatever. Like, I always have connected with it in a way, and I don't know why, but I always find a kinship with people who can understand that type of like really dark humor. There's an inherent darkness in all that stuff. All the stuff that I know that you like, there's an inherent darkness within it. To kind of sum this movie up, we focus on a group of guys, group of friends who've known each other since they were at school. Yeah. And they're pretty much knee-deep with their own addictions, basically. Correct. Most evidently is obviously Renton and Sick Boy and Spud, who have heroin addictions. Mm-hmm. And it consumes their daily lives. And on the flip side to that, you have Tommy, who's more straight-laced. He'll have the odd drink, he'll smoke a cigarette, but, you know, he works out, he keeps fit. Yeah. You know, he does all that stuff. And then there's Begbie, who is the quintessential Scots hard man. He's so scary. He's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. He's the scariest person I think I've seen in a film. Begbie reminds me of several people I've met over the course of my life in Scotland. And the best way you deal with them, and it's the way that they deal with him in this film as a friends group, is that they continue to be his friend because he's a fucking psycho.
Well, because they're too afraid it's worse to not be his friend. Because then you're an enemy.
You'll chip them.
Either way, you're going to get stabbed no matter what.
It's all the international audiences, man, but you're probably going to hear me talking a lot of Scots slang. But certainly chib means stab. Begbie always has a knife on him, and he's always ready to square go, as in start a fight. And we follow their respected day-to-day lives and their musings and stuff. Mm-hmm. What we kind of delve into, and it feels a lot more softly in terms of like, it's like, wow, they're all taking drugs and having a laugh, you know?
It certainly starts off energetic. Well, the whole movie is incredibly energetic, but it's like fun. It's fun, and you're watching them, and they're talking about, you know, their hit is like...
I wouldn't go so much as to say it's fun, but their lives are shown with such a visceral energy,
right,
that it becomes infectious.
I shouldn't say it's fun, because it's certainly not.
What you see is this spiral of the behaviors and the lengths that they'll go to in order to get their hit. Yeah. And as someone who's been on the receiving end of stuff like that before.
Okay, the victim of an addictive
someone
person.
Else, of an addictive family member. It's a horrible recurring spiral that you find yourself in. And I guess like the film starts off somewhere on top.
Yes.
And it slowly descends into hell for the most part. And certainly...
Yeah, up to a point, absolutely, yeah.
It's told with such a level of energy, and there's certainly a lot of comedy, and because it's obviously fueled a lot by pop culture, and because of all the musings and the interactions and stuff like that are pretty much pop culture filled, it's very disarming.
Yeah,
when horrible things do occur. And when they do happen, they're fucking horrible. They're the worst thing, you know?
Yeah, there are parts of this film that I've never forgotten, and I'll never forget, that are so horrible.
Yes.
And then there's parts that are so funny that I'll never forget. It's very, very interesting.
Yes. I guess I think it skirts this line. I think it's an incredibly well conceived script that's shot with a very kind of distinct energy and style about it. It's mostly shot in wide angle lenses. Danny Boyle put on record that his biggest influence for shooting this film was Kubrick.
Right.
And that I can fully understand, because
there's some very take a lot from that.
Yeah, some very direct nods to like A Clockwork Orange and stuff like that. Like that club scene that pushes in.
Oh yeah.
And you see all the stuff on the walls and things like that. It's basically just that same shot when they're in the milk bar.
I'm glad they're just not drinking glasses of milk.
Yeah. So I guess like it's not difficult to summarize this movie, because I think we see the horrible spiraling circle of all of these characters. They all
struggle to get out. Well, not everyone struggled to get out.
No. Well, I think it's like they're all struggling to get a foothold in their own ways and in society. And for the most part, they're fairly abhorrent individuals, you know?
What about Spud?
Well, Spud's just a little bit misunderstood, and I feel like he's been in a group of friends who've always kind of been like this for a while, and he's just been kind of caught up with it. And unfortunately, Tommy suffers the same fate as well when things get him down, which is also like the main thing I have with the film as well, is that whenever things get you down, there's always drugs that you can depend on, and that is unfortunately just kind of the way it goes sometimes, but. Effectively, like it's all about these people trying to escape and trying to do something with themselves. And again, it's very much a kind of criminal element. And then they all come together again. And obviously, Renton is our eyes and ears and our voice through the course of the film.
I found it really interesting to find out that the football team that they were playing against in the very beginning of the movie...
Colton Athletic, yeah.
Yeah, they were like a recovery...
Yep.
A drug recovery group who kind of threw themselves into football and stuff, and they're just recovering heroin addicts. Mm-hmm. And I think they gave a lot of stories and a lot of background and a lot of kind of tidbits on life that really helped influence the film, which I thought was really, really interesting, really cool.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of, because again, I think, you know, you've got the Irvin Welsh perspective as well, because he was a drug addict as well. You know, so you have that, and then you have John Hodge, who used to be a doctor, so he's dealt with people like this, and he knows plenty of stories of people on the suffering end of that. And, I mean, it does a very good job of tapping into that culture. The film doesn't waste a single moment. Like, the minute it starts... what we're presented to, like that opening segment anyway, at least until you feel like the first scene kind of starts. I guess it's like the end of the Choose Life speech is when the film effectively starts.
Right.
Right. So you have like an opening section, cut to Iggy Pop's Lust for Life. And it's one of the most iconic opening sequences to any film ever. They're running down Princes Street.
Do you know when they were filming that scene and they were filming down Princes Street? Yeah. They had this kind of like four-wheeler device that they had the camera on. Mm-hmm. And apparently it ran over Ewan Bremner.
We see Carlton Athletic. They play a football game against them.
Yep.
We meet a whole bunch of other kind of characters as well, and there's a lot of title cards as well, so we see the main four pretty much.
Yes.
So you got your Rent and Spud, Tommy and Begbie. And this is kind of like your introductory kind of section, I guess, because a lot of this stuff is repeated and revisited within the middle of the film as well, like these same scenes, I guess.
Oh yeah.
So this kind of jumps about as an opening segment anyway, just to kind of introduce everybody. But effectively, that whole title sequence, or let's say introductory sequence, starts and it ends at the beginning of Mother Superior's drug den. Yeah. And we meet Swanee and the rest of them, and then obviously we meet the girl that you spoke about earlier on as well, who has the bairn, has the baby.
But when you first meet the baby, it's just like a little bouncy, fat, chunky little baby. And like they were saying that it's hard to have a baby in a film because you need to find someone that'll give you the baby. And then it's even harder because of what's going to happen to the baby in the film.
Yes.
And
yes, I think it was either the production company or if it was whoever was funding the film.
Okay.
They said if you go down the route of having what happens to the baby in the film continue to be in the film, the budget is reduced and you're limiting its appeal.
And I think that they just took that anyway. They're like, that it has to happen.
Well, the thing is like it's a pivotal moment in the film when it happens.
I feel like it's so horrible for me to even say it now, but it made me laugh when I was listening to the commentary. I think Danny Boyle was like, all the babies were like so like plump and healthy that they had to put like makeup on them to make them look like they were like a heroin baby.
Oh god.
They put like white makeup on the baby to make it look less sick. It didn't really work, or make it more sick.
We have the opening, we meet Mother Superior, and Renton's just like, well, this is it, I'm getting off the fucking skag this time. Because obviously he's tried this many times. And
well, yeah, I'm going to do it the sick boy method.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, that worked for him, didn't it?
Because he's lying on the floor in a heroin-induced stupor.
And Renton just turns back and he goes, well, he's lacking in moral fibre. But
he's like, do you need one more for the road? And he's like, no.
No. So he leaves. The main title card comes up.
Toot toot.
Toot toot. Main title card comes up. And what we see is, Renting's preparing for his cold turkey session.
10 cans?
10 cans of tomato soup.
10 cans of cream and mushroom soup.
Okay. Tub of vanilla ice cream, a Lucozade, milk and magnesia.
one bottle of.
And then...
It's like paracetamol.
Porno, 3 buckets.
3 buckets of porno.
No, 3 buckets for the... for piss, shite, and vomitus.
Yeah.
And a telly.
Mineral water.
Yeah. I like this scene because there's a shot in the mirror where... And his voiceover's running all the way through it, so we're getting, like, kind of how he's working in his head. And he's just, like, kind of looks in the mirror, and he goes... No, I need something like...
He needs a little hit to get him through it.
Yeah, he's already
last hit.
Boarded himself in to this apartment with wooden
he hammered
boards
across the door.
And the next thing you see is all the wooden boards on the floor, and he's on the phone to Mikey Forrester, who is Irvin Welsh's character, and he's a drug dealer.
Yeah. Oh, he cracks me up.
Yeah,
he cracks me up. He looks like such a goober. He looks like such a goober and a very distinctive creep.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
He's so funny.
What we see is he goes to Mikey Forrester, gets a couple of suppositories. And he's like, for all the good they'll do me, I might as well just stick them on my arse.
A little smile.
Yeah.
He does. Then, so funny.
Renton leaves, gets diarrhea.
Well, he puts him up his booty.
Yeah, he does.
He puts him up his butt, and then he realizes because the heroin makes him constipated, the heroin's left his system, he's got to take a massive dump. Where's he going to go, Ryan?
Well, he goes to a bookies and what is labelled as the worst toilet in Scotland.
Yeah.
So this is the toilet scene that's also...
Maybe one of the most famous scenes...
Widely talked about.
Ever.
Yeah, so it takes a dump, and we hear every single excruciating
foul.
Detail. Yeah,
it is visceral. That toilet is foul. And I love how when they talk about how they set up that toilet, they're like, it actually smelled really nice because it's covered in chocolate.
Yeah.
But it doesn't fucking matter. Like, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And Ewan McGregor makes it look so real, and he's just like, ugh.
Well, look, if you're gonna go, you gotta go. You know what I mean? I've seen some horrible shitters in my time. I remember once walking into a toilet and all the walls were caked with shite.
I've told you about when I worked at Hollywood Video and I was the manager, and I walked in there once and someone had shat, and it looked like, and maybe I'll draw a diagram and I'll put it on the social medias, but it looked like they were like had their butthole pointed towards like the back of the toilet, like the wall, and then it just like it popped a balloon of shit, and then it just diarrhea balloon, and it just popped not only over the walls and the back of the toilet and all over the toilet seat, but like the ceiling.
Oh, okay, that's clever.
It was everywhere, and I walked in there and I put a "Do not come in here" sign on the toilet for a week, a whole week, because I was like, I'm not prepared.
Oh dear.
Anyway, go on.
I think the worst one I ever saw was someone did a poop, but not only did they not get all the poop in the toilet, it fell on the floor. But not only was it on the floor, they also stood in it while it was on the floor, and then dragged it out into the locker room at work.
Oh my God, Ryan, you told me about this, and it was at your work.
Yeah, so this toilet scene. He effectively, he goes for a dump, he's like, fuck, the suppositories didn't dissolve, so they're like in the bottom of the toilet bowl, so he goes fishing around in there for it while he's like gagging and dry heaving. Well,
there's a shot that's like up through the toilet bowl, up into Renton's face.
It's probably one of my favourite shots in the whole film, because it looks really clever.
It does, and he said that that shot was the closest that he's ever been to a cinematographer.
Wow.
Right up his butthole. Oh, wait, you know what? Before we even get there, I need to say that not only was I disgusted by the whole toilet, but the little poo bits. The poo bits on his hands.
Well,
like when
chocolate.
He goes digging.
They were chocolate, though.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, it just... Good for them.
That's some really slimy poop, though. Get that on your hands.
Well, he had diarrhea, so it's little diarrhea bits.
Yeah.
It's probably... I don't even know why I'm saying this, but I've never dug around my own diarrhea, but I don't know what it looks like on my hands. Thank God I've never lived that life.
No, we do that in Scotland all the time. What are you talking about?
Shut up. And I wish that there was photographic evidence of what the poo slide looks like.
Okay, the poo slide.
Because they had a half toilet. So it's like a stunt.
Yeah, it's a stunt toilet.
Stunt toilet. So you've got a half toilet and the other end's a slide.
That he's jumping into. And you can tell that there's like more hole to this toilet than there is when he goes down. But I mean, it's shot at like the right angle. Like it's perfectly straight and right on the toilet. You never see the lip.
No.
None of that. And the toilet doesn't really move that much either. Like they did a really good job building that thing.
Yeah, so they did the little slide. So it's like when he dives in to the toilet, he goes down and then I guess it was his own idea to like when he goes and his legs go in, he does a little flip. Like as if he's flipping around the bend of the toilet himself.
Twists,
he does a little twist.
Yeah, into the pond.
Yeah.
And he picks up these oversized suppositories from the bottom. Passes a mine.
He does pass a mine.
Yeah, passes a sea mine.
Do you know that there's a bunch of like inactive mines from the war?
You told me this.
Around Scotland and like England and stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
They have to be monitored and sometimes they have to be like blown up in these controlled explosions.
Yeah. Well,
there's a lot of archaeologists that like are constantly watching like these mines.
We don't want any of those fucking U-boats coming over to our soil, do we? That's it. That's what we were looking for.
Just dropping bombs and leaving them there.
Bombs.
Just like Ewan McGregor.
But he gets them back. He's like, "Oh, you fucking dancer." Says that underwater. That's like one of my favorite bits in the movie. He screams that underwater, and he leaves. I like the fact that obviously this is like a surreal kind of dream moment for him.
Yeah,
and it's very metaphorical. But then when he obviously gets out of the toilet and he's like massively out of breath and stuff, the next shot we see is him like squelching through to his flat, and he's like still soaking wet.
Yeah, he's so wet.
Aye.
I love that too.
What you kind of find, and this is the way that I kind of see this with the film, is the film, like the location is meant to be set in Edinburgh.
Yeah, it sure is. And I forgot, because I hadn't seen it since, like, I moved.
Yeah.
And so when I watched it again after having lived there, and I was like, this isn't Edinburgh, this is Glasgow.
It's 100%
the whole movie. Yeah. And I'm like, that's a shame.
It kind of is and it isn't, I guess, because of the way Edinburgh was changing.
But it always looks the same. Like it's a medieval city. It's a Georgian city.
The thing is, though, and I don't know what it was for whatever reason, but obviously they were looking for just the rougher parts. Glasgow's got a lot of that. Glasgow's got a lot of those rough schemes and those like council houses and stuff like that.
It has a reputation for sure.
It has a reputation, and certainly Edinburgh, you kind of see it as you've got your city centre and it's all pristine and clean and stuff like that, and then it tends to,
or so it seems.
Well, I mean, they tend to have like a good clean city centre, and then they push all the rest of the shite to the outskirts of the city, basically. And it's always been that way.
Do you remember when I told you that chick was peeing outside my flat stair?
I mean...
Middle of the day.
I've lived there for, like, over 20 years.
I just like telling that story again and again, because it makes me laugh, because I couldn't get into the stair, because she was standing straight up, just going, "Argh!" and just peeing. I had to walk over her puddle of pee to get upstairs.
I mean... Where you were staying, and I'm not going to say where you were staying, but that was like when I heard that's where you lived when we first met, I'm like, that is prime real estate for like junkies and stuff. And it fucking was. Like what we found out is like drug dealers and junkies were living in the top flats, and basically like that made that whole stair like incredibly dangerous.
The people that lived in the stair loved to like stop us and tell us these stories for some reason.
Aye, to try and make you feel better.
Always interesting.
Yeah, and again, it's all they do with drugs and fucking nonsense and all that.
I love living
stuff.
there. I loved it.
No,
and it's not because of all of these weird things. It's just everything. But yeah,
there's bad stuff everywhere, and I guess like because I lived there for such a long time. Certainly, like you want a friendly face, you go to Glasgow. You don't fucking hang around in Edinburgh. Well, Edinburgh's just a fucking shadow of its former self. You know what I mean? That's one of the issues I have. Like when we watch Trainspotting, is that I remember when Edinburgh used to have some fucking character, and now it's just like a corporate mass piece. You know, but Glasgow's the place to be. But I guess like there's a lot more location. Like variety in Glasgow than there was in Edinburgh, and I guess maybe for whatever reason they just weren't able to get the sort of locations they were they were wanting for the aesthetic of the film as well. But
because there's that scene also that's in the park. Is it
that's
Sick Boy and Renton? That's in Glasgow.
Yeah, that's not in Edinburgh Park. That's like, it's either Glasgow Green or Kelvin Grove or something.
I don't even know if it's one of those. It's another park that I hadn't been to, that I hadn't heard of. But do you know when they went out to film that day, I guess Ewan McGregor and Johnny Lee Miller had been out like on a binge night, like went out heavy drinking. And so when they showed up the day to shoot that scene, they were hammered.
Wow. Okay.
They were like still totally hammered.
Yeah. You can't tell.
No. Well, they're drinking then too. It probably helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, might as well, method. Yeah. Method actors.
They're talking about, life, society, because for the most part, like Sick Boy's just a big talker. And also, he's gone through a whole, James Bond, he loves James Bond trivia and stuff like that. Certainly, obviously, Sean Connery is the greatest Bond that ever was.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yes. They shoot the dog. The dog attacks the skinhead.
That poor bull terrier. That bull terrier is so cute.
Shoots the dog.
The dog attacks the owner.
Yeah, you're a mean shot.
For a vegetarian.
Wee dab of speed is just the ticket, eh? So yeah, Spud takes some speed and then he does the interview. Basically,
because he wants to stay on
the gyro.
Yeah, he doesn't want the job.
Yeah. That's that fantastic scene where it's just him talking to these other people for this leisure club, basically, and it's like my pleasure in other people's leisure. Yeah, but it's played edited really well. This film is remarkably well edited. It's one of those.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like you see it from the minute the film starts. There's some beautiful cuts in this film. Mm-hmm. You put them up there with that 2001 cut from the bone to the space station.
I think it's funny that they had to redub Begbie's speech for American audiences, but then that still wasn't enough. But I caught pretty much everything he was saying, because what we have is not the American cut.
No, mine's the full-blown UK version. Here's my thing. It's there's a bunch of slang and there's a bunch of lingo and stuff like that, and if you're in amongst it for decades of your life and stuff like that, there's things that you'll pick up. And certainly there's a bunch of that in Trainspotting and things, and there'll be things that you just don't get, and there'll be something I'm just I've not heard that in years.
Well, that's how the book's written as well. Yeah. It's in dialect.
Aye. So when he's talking and he's saying all this stuff, it does make sense.
Of course.
I remember the first time seeing Ken Loach's Sweet 16, and that was completely subtitled from start to fucking finish.
Oh my god.
Whatever version I saw, this was on the telly, and I was watching it at home.
Whoa.
And I'm like, why are you subtitling this?
Yeah, it made me laugh. I don't know. I caught it, and we were watching kind of, I don't know, behind the scenes type things, and they were talking about that, how they had to redub it, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I had a hard time reading the book personally.
Yeah.
But then watching the film, I'm like, this is fine. But that particular speech in particular, I think was difficult for some people.
Well, the thing is, there's
so funny though.
There's varying ranges of the characters that we get that are kind of archetypes within Scottish culture. So yeah, he goes through this tirade, telling this story from his perspective, and it's all total shite. And then he just finishes his pint and then slings it over the top of this
this balcony.
This balcony top.
And it's smashed. He just wants to fight somebody, and then he runs downstairs.
That's his thing, though. That's his thing.
We're not leaving here until we find out what cunt threw that glass.
Well, let's put it this way. That was close. That was close to it.
Oh, was I what did he say?
It's nae cunt leaves till we find out which cunt did it.
Okay.
Aye. So, it's not which, it's what. What cunt. So before the whole scrap kind of thing, and I think this is the thing about it as well, is that he says that to the group, and then this English guy goes, "Who the fuck are you?" And he just goes,
he just screams.
Just starts screaming, and then he's
kicks him in the balls.
He's perfect. It's the perfect storm. And then he just kicks this English boy in the nuts.
He's so... he is the scariest person I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah. But the thing is like, he's not addicted to anything, and he's like, he has this kind of...
I don't know, he's addicted to...
He has this moralistic stance
violence.
Where he's like, I won't put any of that shite in my body, and it's like, but you'll quite easily stab someone and smoke 100 cigarettes.
He's so ready
and drink
with that knife.
pints.
He's so at the ready with that knife every single time.
They end up in Tommy's house, or Renton's in Tommy's house, like fiddling about with his videotapes and stuff.
Oh yeah.
While Tommy's like lifting weights, and Tommy recites the story. So this is all basically played for laughs, pretty much. And like Tommy tells like the exact opposite, and he's like Begbie's playing like absolute gash, and then it ends with like Begbie fucking smashing a pool cue over some poor boy's back.
Because he was eating like crisps.
Yeah,
at the bar.
A packet of crisps. He's making too much noise.
Because the original story that he was telling at the pub before he throws the glass over the balcony was about what happened at the pool hall. But then
Paul Newman, by the way. Yeah.
But the story that he tells is different than the one that Tommy tells. Yes. Obviously.
Yeah, it's played for laughs, but effectively it's the one moment. It's one of the key moments that characterizes who Begbie is and what kind of character Begbie is.
A piece of shit. What
you find is Renton's like fiddling through his videotapes while he's telling the story, and he ends up swapping their. I don't know why he had it labeled, but he had it fucking labeled. With like Tommy.
You want to make sure you know which one is your sex tape.
And you put it away, you hide it, you put it in a locker somewhere, put it under your bed, like do somewhere.
Well, you need it really close to the VCR so you can pop it in when you're ready to, when you pop a boner, ready to go.
Aye, but I was like, far too trusting of these pals.
Yeah.
I've had pals like that before. Can't trust them at all.
Taking your sex tapes?
Taking my sex tapes. I didn't have a sex tape. I've never done that.
I'm just making sure.
No. See me.
Because I'm like, show me.
Wobbling around. Fucking bumping about.
Yes.
He's Renton swaps out Tommy's sex tape with like, was it top 10 goals of all time or whatever? Top 100 goals.
Top 100 goals of all time.
Yeah. And just before the club scene starts is when they're watching it.
Yeah, he's watching it. Renton's watching it with Sick Boy, and they're so bored. Mm-hmm. They look so bored. I love that. They all go out to a club together. And I think this is after the Volcano Club, which isn't there anymore.
No, it's gone.
And this is after Renton has gotten clean, right? So like he has zero libido, clean for the 100th time, I'm sure. And I think he was saying in that scene that like it was like the first time he's gotten his libido back after being on heroin, right? Like I think that's
all horned up.
Yeah, he's just like tiny clean.
Yeah.
And that's when he's like, all right, everyone else is making out with people. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to find someone.
He's standing against the Travis Bickle mural.
Oh, okay.
But like what's in this club scene, and it's kind of like what goes into effectively what the dick scene is as well, and it's kind of like the opening to the film as well. It just keeps on going, like it just keeps on going. And obviously we're looking at 4 different perspectives with their respective other halves, and obviously we're Renton. He's kind of out in the he's out
all
on
by
his
himself.
own, pretty much. But you have that fantastic conversation between Tommy and Spud about like they're having an argument. But it's one of the only few occasions I remember a club scene being done right.
Yes.
The only other time I can remember is from Social Network, where you feel like they're shouting over music.
Yeah, not just speaking normally with the music turned really loud. Yeah.
And it's like that's where they subtitle it because it's funny.
Yes.
And then they do the subtitles for comedic effect as well. Yeah. You know, where it's not even that right, and they'll take it, like, you won't put in swear words or certain slang words and stuff like that because it's funnier that way.
Yeah.
And,
well, in that scene, they actually had the music turned up really loud. It wasn't one of those situations where they turn the music down and then have everyone yell. Yeah. You know, like, because that's incredibly awkward, but they were like, turn the music up, and they just had them yell to each other. Yeah. So it was a little bit more real. So
yeah, it's pretty funny. Clever. I wonder like how they kind of timed that with the music and stuff, because it's I'm trying to remember the song, Temptation. Yeah, it's Temptation. Yeah. And that plays pretty much up until the point where we first see Diane. Mm-hmm. And then Blondie's Atomic starts.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing about this film, and it's the one thing that I feel like propels it a lot further than it should be, is just its choice of soundtrack. Its soundtrack's amazing. Doesn't have a score, it's just tracks.
Yeah. Danny Boyle's so good at that.
Yeah.
So good at music.
And it's mostly dance music for the most part, other than obviously these quite specific tracks. And I mean, a lot of the tracks are chosen purely on the basis that the songs were made by artists who were known for dabbling in drugs or have died as a result of addiction or drugs. Yeah, and certainly that's another thing about the film as well, is that it goes over a couple of different time zone, like decades. So it goes from like into the 80s into the 90s basically. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we have this club scene. We meet Diane, and she's a fiery one.
Yeah, played by Kelly MacDonald, and this is her very, very first acting gig.
Yeah.
And she was like, she just had kind of a normal job in Glasgow, and then a friend of hers told her about this opportunity, and it was just like a flyer at a club.
Yeah, it sounded like the worst flyer ever.
It did, yeah. I think it said like an opportunity from the director of Shallow Grave. Do you want to be the next Kate Moss or Patricia Arquette? And she's like, what?
Yeah, the fuck.
So she went, and I think Danny Boyle said there was like 900 girls that showed up.
Wow.
To this audition.
Yeah.
And
because I remember the time he did Trainspotting 2, and they were at used to be Cav. Used to be the Cavendish. Oh. They did the club scene there, and I think the Facebook event was maybe 2,000, 3,000 people.
Holy shit.
And that is not the capacity of that club.
No.
And certainly the only way I would have gotten into that club is if I was getting in there for free. Because I wouldn't fucking voluntarily.
Was that the one that had the carpet?
Yeah.
Had the carpeted.
It was called Ignite. Yeah, he's like, well, she goes on it. He tries to like saws it up, and he's not very good at it, obviously. And she goes into this very intelligent rant about how their night and how their time together is probably gonna go.
Yeah.
And he gets very confused, and it's effectively enough to be like, yeah, well, they get in a cab together, and this is what begins the 3-way perspective sex fest, is what I call it.
And I want to say that Diane is the coolest, and we'll soon find out that she's 15 or 16 years old. Uh-huh. And she's so much cooler than I'll ever be.
She has a good head on her shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, this is the 3-way sex scene between Tommy and his girlfriend.
Tommy and Lizzie.
Well, I don't know about sex between Spud and... They don't really have sex.
Tommy and Lizzie, it's Spud. What's his girlfriend's name?
I don't know.
Hey, man. Well, Shirley Henderson, anyway. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, and you guys will know Shirley Henderson from the Harry Potter franchises, who was the ghost in the men's toilet.
Yes, mostly that's, where she plays a young person, sort of.
Weird. I don't know how. It's just her voice, maybe.
It's her voice. But
she helps Harry with that egg.
Yeah, Shirley Henderson's been in a bunch of stuff that's better than Harry Potter.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, you want to keep the people who are interested in that tribe on board.
Thanks, friends.
Yeah.
And then Diane and Renton, and I don't know which one I want to do first. Let's do Tommy and Liz first, maybe.
Yeah, because it doesn't really kind of come to anything.
No, because they are having sex, and she's like, put in the tape. And he's like, oh, I'm going to go get it. And then he ends up, because Renton switched the tapes, it's the 100 greatest goals of all time.
So he's frantically going through every single videotape.
His underwear is bonkers.
Yeah, I think his underwear
I don't know
really
what it's like. I don't know. I thought it was like a leopard print, but it's not. And they're just these...
let's put it this way,
the bikini briefs.
Like, Tommy, at this point, is someone who's got his shit together.
He sure is.
You know what I mean? Like, he's
handsome.
Like,
he's like,
money.
put together.
Yeah, he's doing
got a steady
his thing.
Girlfriend.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this little moment where they can't find the sex tape, he makes a remark about, like, I don't know, maybe I took it back to the video shop, and Lizzie literally goes, the video shop, the fucking video shop, Tommy, the video shop. And what's really funny, and we'll kind of get to this, is like the next shot we see them together is them waiting outside a shuttered video shop, waiting for it to open, so they can try and get this tape back that obviously Renton has.
He never fucking owns up to the fact that he stole it. No, ever. And that sucks.
Yeah, well,
it's so messed up.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that Renton does. His culpability is quite...
he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's not a good person. So...
Then...
Spud. Let's go with the Spud.
I would love to go to Spud. So, Spud is... He goes home with Shirley Henderson.
Yeah, he's hammered.
And he's totally hammered. And he's passed out. And she's like, gets on top of him. And she's slapping in the face. And she's like, Spud, sex. Sex. Spud. Sex. And he's just, his eyes are rolled into the back of his head. Like, he's totally out.
No, he's catatonic,
she goes, well, let's see what I'm missing. Yeah. And she unzips his trousers. And this, I'm time-stamping this for you. Only 27 minutes into the movie.
It's only an hour and a half, remember?
Holy moly.
Yeah.
I'm putting this out there right now. Oh, no, I shouldn't say it. We're going to do this later. Okay. We're going to rate it.
Oh, okay.
I'm not doing this now. Hold your horses, everybody.
Okay.
She unzips his trousers, and she looks, and you get a shot of his dick.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, I'm not missing much.
No.
But Ryan.
What?
He's got a big dick.
He's got a wiener. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's like monster size or anything.
I think what she's referring to, though, is it's not like erect. It's just this sad, like flaccid dick.
He's just sleeping. A sleeping dick.
I mean, he's done. Like, he can't do anything. Like, he's finished.
I guess not, but it did make me laugh, like, because it is, you're like, oh, you know, there it is. And then Danny Boyle, or I can't remember if it was Andrew McDonald or Danny Boyle that was, like, laughing at the fact that she says that. But they're like, but Ewan Bremner's got a pretty big dick sitting on his thigh. Yeah, but then it goes back to Renton and Diane.
Yeah, let's put it this way, that each of these kind of beats and moments that we're seeing in these stories are all intercut together.
Yes.
Yeah, so they all kind of run the same gamut together.
Yeah, it's going back and forth, back and forth. So, like, they're hitting kind of these peaks and troughs at the same time, essentially, but the only one that's really getting a good peak is Diane and Renton.
Pretty much.
Because they're the only ones, actually, that end up having sex.
Yeah. And it's pretty, it's pretty hard. And it's also intercut. Like, I mean, they're hard riding each other. Like, they're getting it done.
I think there was a part where Danny Boyle was like, she sounds like she's enjoying it too much.
Well, I mean, that goes on the list of, like, weird shit directors say during sex scenes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. It is weird.
Yeah. It's kind of like, all right, calm down. It's like we're getting into freaking territory, you know what I mean?
Oh, God, yeah.
It's like, you're only getting away with it because you're so charming. So stop it.
Yeah.
But this is like his sex and their climax is also intercut with the Archie Gemmell goal from 1978.
Oh my God.
And Renton references it after he's come. Because it's the video that Tommy and Lizzie put into the video player.
Yep.
And it's like, I've never felt as good as that time Archie Gemmell scored against England in 1978. And it's like, good lad. It's funny.
Oh, wow. That's 27 minutes and 37 seconds where after they finish having sex, where you see Ewan McGregor's penis.
Yeah, he rolls over out of bed, and then that's where we see it.
That's where you see it, and it's pretty quick. It's not as much as Ewan Bremner. Like it's a lot. It's a lot faster because she kind of sits up, and then she's like, "You got to get out of here."
Yeah, chucks him into the hallway, And he's like, Jesus! And then he pulls the rubber off his dick.
Yeah.
Now, originally, I thought that was the moment we see his dick. Because we do see it. See it a silhouette, but I mean,
sure
we
do.
see it. But yeah, no, you do see it, like, rolling on the bed.
Yeah.
When he gets onto the bed, so... Aye.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, fairly incidental.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, like, it's in the same context as we've listed quite a few of these other dicks, is that it's in a post-sex, post-coital
yes, indeed.
situation, you know?
Well, you've got one post-coital, and then you have another comedy dick.
Post-coital, yeah, and you have, like a pre-coital, non-coital situation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, where it was going to be.
It was going to be...
Well, after all of these sex scenes happen...
Yes.
Spud wakes up in Shirley Henderson's bed.
Yes.
And this
or
is...
a bed, yeah.
Hey, it's her bed.
Didn't she say she slept on the couch?
Well, he's in her bed.
All right, okay.
He's in her bed and she's not there.
Well, pretty much he
wakes
up.
It's a nice single bed.
Yeah.
Just like we used to have when we first lived together. The worst.
That is a story.
I cannot believe that we slept in a single bed together.
It's
goodness
like
gracious.
absolutely tiny.
Yeah.
We got it done though.
Yep.
We got it done.
Well.
So.
But when he wakes up, you know something's wrong because there's just this horrible shadow kind of around his crotch area and these bright pink sheets.
There's shite everywhere.
He shit himself.
Shit himself.
Why am I dancing around this? He pooped.
He fucking shit himself.
He did a poo-poo in the bed.
And he puts his hand down there. He's got a hand covered in poop.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
He bundles up all the sheets to try and like get them in the wash before anyone notices. And he walks into the kitchen and Shirley Henderson and her family, her parents are just having a nice full Scottish breakfast.
Yeah.
Big plate of beans. Spud walks in with his like shitty bed sheets and the and the mom's like, "Oh, I've got these.
Yeah.
Don't worry." And then they have a wrestling match to try and get the sheets out of Spud's arms.
Aye. Let's just say there's shite everywhere. All on their faces, all on the walls.
Oh god, it sprays because she wrestles it out and it just flicks wet shit. Oh my god.
Unformed poop goes everywhere. It's all
foul.
incredibly wet.
All in their mouths, in their eyes, on their face, on the food.
Yep.
It's everywhere. They said that the prop department had to keep making shit because Danny Boyle's like, I want to do this in a oneer.
Okay.
I want to do this in one shot. And they're like, no, I can't do this. And he's like, we're going to do it in one. And so they kept doing it over and over. So the prop department had to keep making poop. Making fake poop.
Oh, wow.
And I really love after the poo goes everywhere and the mom's like little lip quiver. It was like a little shaky poopy lip.
Because she got poop in her mouth.
She did get a little poop in there.
Yeah, a little poop in her mouth.
Oh, that's so gross.
Yeah, fucking heroin poopy in her mouth.
Ugh.
Basically, like, all the shit's all over the walls, and then we cut back to Renton, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of like your quintessential, like Newtown flat, or like your West End Glasgow flat sort of scenario.
Yeah.
Like, there's some dick on a bike, like riding up and down the hallways and shit, and you're like, right, okay. And then Renton sits down, goes to have some breakfast with what he thinks is Diane's flatmates, but they're her parents.
Oh, yeah.
Because Diane is a bairn. She's only 15.
And she's so smug about it as well. She's so smug because she's acting like she's older, and then she comes out in her schoolgirl uniform.
Yeah, it's rough. Let's put it this way: the age of consent is 16 over there. So I don't know if it was 16 back then, but it's 16 now. So
whatever it was, she was under it.
She was underage, and pretty much Renton's like we can't see each other again. I'm a pedo. Can't do this? What are you talking about? And it's like, you know what they do to folk like me? They cut your dick off and they flush it down the fucking toilet. That's what they do. So basically, she bribes him and tells him, like, you better see me again,
or I'll call the cops,
or I'll go to the police, like that. But they go they go for a wee walk, or at least Tommy's like, let's go for a wee walk. And they get off the train and they start going, and they get to like this one little plinth, and they all stop apart from Tommy, and Tommy's like, why are you not walking? And I think Sick Boy shouts to him and be like, look, you might be getting it at home, but did he take it out on us? For making us come out for a walk.
Yeah, because Liz broke up with him.
And he's like, what's the great outdoors? Incident. And he's like, it's great being Scottish. And then Renton goes into this rant about nationalism and patriotism and stuff like that kind of just really hits home, where it's just like, it's shite being Scottish. Let's just say what follows this is, I would say, the very real side to drug addiction, which is like the thieving and the stealing and stuff like that. And then, you know, this is where time gets a little bit wibbly wobbly.
Okay, yeah.
Where they're kind of like in a drug stupor for the most part.
Yeah.
And this is when Tommy gets into heroin, and this is where his story starts to take a horrible turn.
Yeah, it's so sad that it just takes one thing, and it sucks. It's them making fun of Americans. It's hilarious.
Well, the title comes up saying the first day of the Edinburgh Festival.
Right, so then you've got tourists and stuff, and then they're sitting in a pub, and this American walks in, and he's got a fucking little backpack that says USA on it, that, like, I have seen tourists that do this. I've seen them. They do exist.
Yeah.
And he walks in this pub, and he goes, pardon me, may I use your bathroom? Fucking accent, but it's so funny. And then they just beat the ever-loving shit out of him and steal his money.
Yeah.
Oh, they're like, tourists. Yeah. Americans are the worst. And I'm like, oh, dear.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. And I'm like, you know what? Here's something I say about American tourists.
Uh-huh.
All right? They're not all terrible. At least they're getting out there. The worst part is when you have Americans, or even people in any country, that don't go anywhere. That have the money and they have the means, but they're just like, they don't travel and they don't go anywhere. Get out there. Get out and travel. At least he's doing something.
I remember a story of an American tourist back in Edinburgh, and they asked the serious question of, do you put the castle away in the winter?
Remember that story of that, of your friend who was working in Edinburgh Castle, and then there was a tourist that walked in there looking at like the crown jewels and stuff, and then they were watching it on the camera, and someone took a dump in their pants and then shook it out their pant leg.
I shook a tolly out their trouser leg. She's there. They're at Mother Superior's. They're at Swanee's. You have no concept of time when they're there.
Yeah.
So, for whatever reason, and you can garner anything you want from it, it's still tragic regardless, but the child could have been lying in that cot for weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like everyone's in a drug haze, and when that moment does happen, it just kind of happens. And everyone like wakes up and like reality bites, and it's just...
Because Renton says, like, because the mother's screaming when she finds out that the baby has died. And he's like, she could have been screaming for hours, minutes, or weeks. It happens.
Yeah, I guess like, and I'm going to continue saying this because I don't want to be too celebratory of the film. I think the film does some fantastic things, and I love the way that it does everything.
Yes.
But I'm skirting very closely on like what sort of wording I use for it, you know, like it's like, it's an energetic opening, but it's fucking horrible when things go wrong. And it's kind of like everything's kind of like it's like a train, right? Let's just put it this way. Okay. And it's not going to come to a stop. It's going to hit a fucking barrier. Like, something's going to happen. Like, this train just keeps on going and going and going and going until it eventually hits its first roadblock. I guess, like, this is where they go to court. Spud ends up going down for, like, 6 months. And Renton gets away with it. And he's like... They're like, oh, you're going to go off this guy. And it's like, listen to Franco. He's talking sense. It's like, it's fucking obvious that cunt was going to fuck some cunt.
Well, he ends up having an overdose, Renton. He's like, oh, before I go and...
Pretty much he can't deal with the guilt of sending Spud to to prison. So
it's literally any excuse. It's like, oh, I have to stop doing heroin now. Well, let me do heroin again so that I can deal with not doing heroin again.
He jumps off a wall and he's at Swanee's.
He has his hit. He's obviously overdosing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sinks down into the floor in this red carpet.
Yeah, as if he's at like the jaws of death, basically. Like a dug grave, basically.
Like a carpet grave.
Yeah, so it's either seen from... the carpet grave. Because it's always the carpet. The mouth of the grave is the way I put it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, until obviously he's snapped back into existence. From this, they end up back home. He gets back, he's in his room, and it's all been made up, and it's like his kid's room, like from when he was like only 14 years old, like just before he left home.
I love that. I love this scene so much.
It's just a literal nightmare.
Cool. Well, yeah, it's a nightmare, but it also looks real cool. Yeah.
So like he's haunted by visions of, notably is the dead baby. He's Begbie under the bed sheets.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's the last person I want to see under my bed sheets.
So you sweat that shit out of your system, or I'll kick it out. Yeah.
So scary.
Which then kind of leads into like his father wakes him up and he's like, "There's something you've got to do," and he goes get these blood drawn.
Yeah.
Because he goes to get the AIDS test because they found out Tommy's got AIDS. Renton's like, "Oh, you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy and stuff like that, and you're so grateful that you don't have it." But then it's, some poor cunt's got shite for blood, pretty much. That's what he refers to it as, which I think is very clever. But like Diane comes over one day, they smoke a bit, and then obviously had sex and shit, and then he makes the decision to go to London town.
Yeah.
It's presented like a London tourist video.
It's so funny.
Yeah. So he goes to London. He's working at a real estater's, and he's basically pitching renting flats and stuff like that. Renting flats or renting. He ends up thinking he's gotten away from it. He gets a letter from Diane. And for whatever reason, there's something said in the letter about Francis Begbie held up a jeweller's. And he's now wanted for armed robbery. And then at that moment, we hear the doorbell ring. And who's there? But Franco.
Oh,
Franco's turned up.
Yikes.
And he's like, a fucking replica. Gets him down to go down to the bookies.
Okay.
I put 16-1 on Big Boy. And they go out clubbing. But Begbie meets somebody at the rave.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
And, they go back to a car. And he's, like, talking about all this stuff, and they were just like, but nobody told Begbie.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, and he's ended up in the car, and he's fondling a dude, a transvestite.
Yeah.
Sick Boy's also found himself coming down to London.
Yes, he has, unfortunately.
Yeah. They're selling his TV and his possessions for some money. Yeah, there's like great bit where they're like sitting having their fish teas and he's just like, "You sold my television." It's like, "Well, it's a rental anyway. You don't have to worry about it."
Oh my god.
And he's like, "Oh, I know this guy who will like sport UK passports to foreigners." And Ewan McGregor's got that perfect line, which is like, "Why would I want to sell my passport?" Yeah, a bunch of stuff kind of happens, and they do end up going back home to Edinburgh because Tommy's dead.
Yeah, he's passed away.
Yeah, here's the thing, like, there's this story that they tell, and it's about, like, Tommy went to Lizzie's, and he's got, like, a kitten, and she's just like, "Get off my doorstep," so he's stuck with this kitten, and this kitten's, like, malnourished and stuff, and but for whatever reason, fucking Tommy's dead. He's got like a fucking brain embolism. He's got like headaches and he's taking loads of drugs and then he fucking dies of a stroke.
Yep.
In his house, and they don't find him until 3 weeks later. And the end of the story, I think, was great. It was just like, but the kitten was fine.
The kitten was fine.
This is the last part of the film that we're at now, where there's a skag deal, and that's what happens.
And they do it.
Yeah, and
they get all the money and effectively screws everybody over.
Pretty much. I mean, he has been the character we have followed this entire time, and it's the one part, I think that whole sequence up until the point it ends is like probably my favourite bit. is that they get the money, they're at the pub, they're drinking, they make jokes about, like, what if I just stole the money? And they'll be like, well, I'd come fucking chase you. Or Begbie says he'll be like, I'll fucking kill you.
Yeah, right? Yeah, he did.
And you do believe it. And Begbie ends up in an altercation with one of the punters at the bar. And...
always looking for a fight.
Basically, shins him with a glass, tears his face open.
Oh my God.
Smashes it against the bar. And then kicks him in the face. And it's brutal as fuck.
It's
awful.
Horrible. It's awful.
Aye. In amongst it, Spud gets cut on the palm. Sick Boy's up there screaming at him. Everything's kind of happening. And there's this, like, really silent moment where Begbie's like, Rent Boy, get me a smoke. He goes down there and Renton's hands are, like, shaking. Gets him a cigarette. He's like, he doesn't want to just take the cigarette. He lights the cigarette for him, puts him in his mouth. Mm-hmm. Takes a draw, and then he blows the smoke into Renton's face.
Yeah.
And then... Born Slippy by Underworld starts.
Oh.
And I just think it's a phenomenal music cue. It's like probably one of my favourite music cues in any film.
Yeah.
And Renton just leaves.
He just walks away.
Yeah, just walks away with the money.
Smile on his face.
Yeah. And then obviously, like, Begbie destroys the entirety of that hotel room.
Yeah, he does.
You know. And, Renton walks away, gives a diatribe about becoming one of us, becoming a member of the capitalist society that he was so against before, because now he has money, because that's how things work. That's how life works now. And he fades out into obscurity.
John Hodge was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay.
Wow.
But he did not win. Do you know who won?
Who won?
Billy Bob Thornton.
Sling Blade. Wow. Okay.
Don't like Billy Bob Thornton.
Well, that was a big hitter that year for Miramax. You see what I mean?
Ugh.
Yeah, it was one of those.
He did win, Hodge did win the BAFTA for adapted screenplay, though.
There was no better British film that year.
No. Irvin Welsh lives in Miami.
No shit.
He does.
Fuck.
He used to live in Chicago. And a friend of mine used to see him at, like, the UPS store.
Fuck, so he's only like a hop, skip, and jumping away.
Yeah, we could go see him.
Could go fucking talk to Irvin Welsh.
Yeah. He's very nice, apparently. He's a very, very cool dude.
He is very much like Sean Connery was a patron of certain, like, cinema locations and stuff like that in Edinburgh. Irvin Welsh was trying desperately to preserve, like, certain buildings and architecture and stuff like that in Edinburgh.
I love that.
The place where we got married, the Leith Theatre, Irvin Welsh is the patron of that place.
Get out.
And that place is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. So
national treasure.
Yes, I do like Irvin Welsh.
Oh my gosh.
A lot. So
I'm sure everyone knows the answer to this, but would you recommend this movie?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think if you think about the staple of British cinema just in general, it changed it forever.
Yeah, it's great.
And it launched the career of Danny Boyle, and he's went on to make some good things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I would wholeheartedly recommend it. But again, if you're a little bit on the sensitive side, it might not be for you.
It's got some rough stuff. I would recommend this movie as well. I've always loved this movie. It has some hard stuff, but that's the nature of the content. Yeah. You know, like, it can't be all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed because it's fucked up and it's horrible. And but luckily with the content, they were able to make it very energetic and, you know, as you were saying before, like, kind of strangely relatable in a way.
Yeah, they skirt a really fine line.
They sure do.
That's what I kind of appreciate about it.
But it's people that you weirdly want to follow, even though they're, like, despicable. You know, like, you want to see what happens with them.
That's just the nature of really good writing. Because I think they say in the commentary, like, Renton's a bit of an anti-hero, but in a slightly different sense. You know, like, I don't feel like there's any like, coincidence that he's standing in front of a Travis Bickle mural in that club when we first see him, you know what I mean? Because he's, like, that character's lauded in that movie, but he does some despicable things.
It's not like you want them... There's no one that you're watching that you were like, yeah, I'm really rooting for you. Mm-hmm. You're just watching them and you're going along for the ride, but you're not... I don't know. Like, I don't...
No.
I don't know if I want them to succeed, but you maybe just want them to be better.
I feel like out of the group of individuals, though, Renton is the only one who's worth, like, at least even the slightest bit redeemable. Even the slightest bit.
Spud.
Yeah, but I feel like... Yeah, potentially.
He didn't do anything wrong.
He didn't do anything wrong, and he's kind of mired in it, but he's just like, unfortunately, he is kind of just collateral damage.
Yeah.
In new situations. That's what happens. He's a bit sensitive, he's a wee bit soft. And that's just kind of the way it is. Yeah, so.
Well, I gave this movie 5 stars, the film itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I would agree, yeah.
Yeah.
It's there's nothing quite like it.
No. And for my visibility and context, since we have 2, we've got Ewan Bremner at 27 minutes. I gave that 5 stars.
Yeah, it's right there. Yeah.
It does not shy away.
No.
And it's great. It's funny.
Yeah.
It works. And for Ewan McGregor's in this one at 27 minutes 37, I gave it 2 stars for visibility and context. I have no problem with the context. Context is 5 stars, but like it's so fast. It's so fast that it's like if you want to see a Ewan McGregor penis, just ask me or look on the website. There's 5
or
other
watch a Ewan
movies.
McGregor film that's probably not that's not Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a Ewan McGregor, David Mackenzie movie, you'd probably see plenty of dick in that as well.
You just search Ewan McGregor on onthebeat.com. There's a ton.
Yeah.
Like there's a movie like later in like 1996 where he's just naked the whole movie. So
yeah.
And that's not a problem. That's fine because it works for this movie because it perfectly fits in within the theme and within the context of that scene. So it's fine. I'm not knocking it.
No.
It's fine.
Hope everybody enjoyed that.
Yeah.
My Renton like diatribes about the movie Trainspotting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think if anyone was going to make diatribes about it, it should be you.
Oh, thank you. What does that mean?
Because you're Scottish.
Oh, that was because I was boring. Right.
Certainly not.
That's good. I'm very interesting, or so you tell me.
Well, coming to you from the volcano bar that no longer exists.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It has been my pleasure and everyone's leisure. I've been Laura.
And I've been Ryan.
Thanks so much for being here, and we will see you next time.
Yeah. Fuck you, cunts.
Oh, shit. I love you. Bye.